16th, August 9th, sorry, 19th, not 9th, 2017 to order. We have a quorum and the agenda was properly posted.
Yes.
Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4 is public appearances. This is public's opportunity to speak about any subject that's not a specific agenda item. I think we have some registered to speak, but not about anything other than agenda items.
Great.
Okay. Number 5 is discuss and consider the minutes from the Plan Commission meeting of July 12th. Any comments or corrections or questions?
I'd like motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
A motion by John and second by Phyllis to approve the minutes as presented. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And motion passes. Item 6, at this point, we will open a public hearing. And this is the opportunity for public to provide input regarding a request from Monona Grove Development, Inc. for approval of a preliminary plat for the proposed Shady Grove subdivision located at 2863 County Highway BV. First, we'll have the applicant presentation and Robert. Yep.
Good evening. How is everyone?
Good.
My name is Jessica Kahn. I represent our client, Monona Grove Development, Inc., along with Robert Proctor. Here, I'm with JSD Professional Services. What I'm going to do is just give you a really quick overview of the subdivision, and then I'll let Robert address some of the public comment that we've heard today.
Okay.
Sound good? Okay, so today we're requesting the Plan Commission approve the preliminary plat for the Shady Grove subdivision. The subdivision consists of 62 single-family lots, which are centrally located here in the subdivision, along with 4 duplex lots, which are located here, and then 4 multi-family lots here, 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 and finally one here. Public improvements that are associated with the subdivision. Oh.
I can't hear, couldn't possibly go to see the chart.
Yeah, we have it electronically, so if you want to turn it so they can see it, that's fine as well.
Thank you.
That way the cameras will get it too.
No, put it on my back.
That's fine.
So I was just going to go over public improvements that are associated with this subdivision. So we have the extension of Fundamental Way as a north-south collector through the project site. We have the extension of Bus Road as well. As a note, this alignment is the preferred alignment based on Public Works Committee comments. We have 2 stormwater management facilities, one located on the south side of the project site here, and one located on the northwest side of the project site here. We also have a lift station and outlot 4 down here, as well as parkland dedication located on the south portion of the project site as well. Finally, we have 1 outlot 5 here along the east side of the project site, which is home to a 60-foot wide gas pipeline easement owned by Koch. I will also mention to you that the overall mass grading of the project site was revised since the original preliminary plat submittal to help maintain as many of the existing mature trees as possible on the site. That pretty much wraps up the summary of the subdivision. Robert, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, I wanted to address, last time at the initial presentation of the plan, there was a number of questions raised by the public, and wanted to address some of those questions so that the commission had those answers. First, there's been a number of questions raised about the notice that was provided regarding the annexation and the fact that there would be a development here. The notice requirements were by state law, and the notice was published in the newspaper for the annexation itself. It was delivered to the town and to the village, and the notice specifically said that the annexation could be reviewed at either place. The annexation ordinance itself was reviewed by this planning commission and by the village board, which means that it was also noticed for both meetings. So it had 3 publications in newspapers and on all the notices. I would add also that a second point would be that this project, and it's in the engineer's report or in the staff report, and we'd like to thank staff. Staff's worked very hard on all of these projects and have been so professional to work with. But as they point out in the staff report, it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan for the village was passed in 2000, and since then it's been amended 11 times. That means each time this comprehensive plan has received public notices, had public hearings, had notices going out there, and there's the comprehensive land map right up behind you, behind the commission. And you know this, and the point of it is that this land has always been planned by the village to be part of the village and to be a neighborhood, to be a planned neighborhood. This is not the beginning of some sort of planning that occurred where the developer just showed up and dropped something down out of nowhere. This is the culmination of long-term planning by the village with lots of notices. And I understand that many landowners, you know, kind of have blinders on. They're not looking at all the notices to see what comes out. But I think it's unfair to accuse the village or the developer that there hasn't been proper notice as to the potential land use of this plan. The developer comes along near the end of this process. The village has been involved in this process for 17 years, you know, and so this has been long planned this way, and it has always been planned to be part of the, well, planned for approximately 17 years to be part of the village and to eventually be residential. One of the issues that was raised was water quality, and the staff report goes into that in detail. It was reviewed by the Capital Area Regional Planning Commission. It was reviewed by the DNR against the Dane County Water Quality Plan. It had public notices and a public hearing for that review, and it was deemed to be consistent with all water quality standards. It's going to have no effect on any neighboring wells because it's going to be on sanitary sewer and water in the village. And it's in compliance with all of those environmental plans. Another issue that was raised by the public was the existing streams and environmental corridors. The existing streams, there are 2 intermittent streams. They don't have really defined beds throughout them. They're really just waterways, but they are being, and they're shown on the map as environmental corridors. The streams themselves will, where there's a defined bed, will be sensitive environmental corridors, which means they'll have a significant setback. The Capital Area Regional Planning Commission and staff and the developers' engineers are working out to map that exactly, so those areas will be protected and taken care of. There are other areas, environmentally corridor areas in the plat also that will be protected. Then there was questions about the Monona School District and Monona Grove School District. I know that the village has received additional information about that, but there is a long-range plan that was done by a special committee. They hired experts. They hired C.G. Schmidt, Vanderwall and Associates, Epstein Ewan Architects. They've met. They've done a growth analysis. They have done a facilities planning. They expect 1,000 to 2,000 students to be added by 2035. They are aware that Cottage Grove is going to be growing, and they are the experts on putting together the needs of the facilities. And since they are comfortable with the growth, and my understanding is they project that this development will add 75 students, that they're very comfortable with the growth. And so just to kind of summarize, we're in agreement with the staff's report. We're in agreement with its conditions. There's a couple things that need to be added to the flushed out regarding the maintenance of the outlots to the village's staff satisfaction. That shouldn't be a problem. And then set forth the requirements for the homeowners association to take care of those sections. that also won't be a problem. It's just putting the final document together with the details. And then coming forward with the proper zoning. But, so I would only stress that at this point, this is the end product of a long-term plan by the village, and what has been brought forward by the developer is completely consistent with what the village had envisioned along the way. So there are things at the margins that obviously this planning commission and the village trustees will look at regarding, you know, whatever the issues are, such as the environmental corridors and so forth. But as a residential subdivision, this is the end product that's been envisioned for a long time, and we're really excited to bring it on board.
Just one thing to add, Robert, the 75 students that you mentioned approximately from this development, that won't be 75 next year. I mean, that'll be over the course of years of development.
We wish it was next year, but it will probably be over a number of years. And then it will be continuing over time as the houses grow.
All right, thank you. The gas pipeline, is that supposed to be treated like an outlot with maintenance, or is that?
It will be an outlot with maintenance. There are very strict requirements for it put on by the easement holder, and the easement holder has an agreement. Jessica knows this better than I, so I should just let you answer it. So go
You're
ahead.
doing a good job. No, so Koch has responsibilities in terms of maintaining all of their easements. Based on my conversations with them and based on state legislation, they have two ways to survey their properties and their easements throughout the state. One is boots on the ground, so they have a gentleman that kind of goes around the Madison metro area and southern Wisconsin and views the easements to make sure they're clear of debris and that they're visible. They also take aerial photographs of their easements and surveillance of them. Should they become overgrown with brush or shrubs or debris, they go through and they mow, and this is occurring on a 10-day cycle. So every 10 days, they're surveilling either on the ground or from the sky of their easements.
All right. We also have, are there any other questions from board members here at this point? Otherwise, we have, sorry? Yeah.
When will you have the environmental corridor agreement available for us to review?
Well, the agreement will be, just to get it exactly right, it will be, because this is the first time I saw the requirement, it'll come back with the final plat. And it will probably, it's a provide draft legal and rules for proposed association, including maintenance plan for Outlet 5. So it will come back with the final plat. We'll probably have it ready for the preliminary plat to the town board, but it will probably go in the covenants because you'll want it to apply to all the lots so that the homeowners association is responsible.
Well, to me, it seems like that's something that's important for us to be able to review. And I would think that the Board of Trustees would want to see that before they act on a preliminary plat.
And we'll get it to them, but we just found out about it. I mean, it's a relatively routine document. It's going to be about mowing, it's Outlet 5, the stormwater.
No, well, Outlet 5 is the pipeline.
Oh, the pipeline.
Pipeline, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I can tell you right now that it's going to not allow anything over 4 feet because that's what the Koch easement requires and the state requirements. And so it's going to basically allow for some specifically approved plantings that are already, basically the Koch brothers the Koch company has a menu of plantings that don't become too high. And that's what you can put in there, and that's what's going to be in there. And the homeowners association will have the obligation to cut it, let's say, and keep it under 4 feet and keep it free of debris. And we can show you the easement and the requirements that go along with it that will show that the owner, the benefited party, the Kochs, will come in there and do it otherwise. So it will kind of look the way it looks now, basically going forward with hopefully some ornamental plantings, small ones.
I think my concern is that, as you stated, it's going to affect the covenants. And that's something that would seem, I mean, that's something that's a requirement that you provide as part of the preliminary plat. So it seems like that'd be something we would want to get prepared, and have ready for review.
Well, we'll have it for the town, for the village board, but as so far as having it today, it's the conditions that came back. from
I
the-
understand
yeah.
that. What I'm saying is, it seems like that's something that should be available to the village before it gets to.
I think that's part of the precise implementation plan as opposed to the preliminary plat, I think. But I'm not positive either, but I know we'll have it.
The
Well,
precise implementation plan is summit. There's a preliminary plan.
Yeah.
final.
It's my understanding, and let me know if I'm wrong on this, but once you approve a preliminary plat, as long within 2 years you meet the minimum requirements of what was that preliminary plat, and you bring the final plat, there's really not a lot of discretion to approve it. And that's why I'm thinking that we need that before we make a final decision on this at the board.
Well, Nick's right, I mean, once you pass the, or approve the preliminary plat, I mean, you have effectively set the guidelines and for what the final plat's going to be. So if that's a request that's being given to you that is part of the preliminary plat, to have that information available.
We absolutely will for the board. I mean, some of it's going to require feedback from staff as to what they want in that.
Our board meeting is August 21st. Is that something we could get by then? Is that-
Do it tomorrow with any sort of feedback from staff, what they wanted changed on it. I mean,
Okay.
it's,
So the plan commission could approve it with the contingency that it's for the village board by the 21st?
It's a recommended condition actually
Yeah.
already, so.
Okay, so it's in there.
And that was another question. How many informational meetings have you had with the neighborhood, with the neighborhood itself? And we have quite a few people here this evening.
We've had none with the neighborhood, that's the neighboring, those are the neighboring neighborhood in the town, so we haven't had any meetings with them.
Well, according to our ordinances, we have the ability as a planning commission, plan commission, to ask you and actually require you to do that. If we were to do that tonight, would you be willing to have an information meeting before the board meeting with the neighborhood?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
We also have staff reports from Aaron and Mike, and then we can get to the question part of the story here. So, Mike, I guess you're up first, or well, I guess Aaron, if you want to go first, that's fine.
Sure, you should have a copy of the staff report in your packet.
Yep.
We do have a couple of fairly minor updates just since additional information has come in over the past few days, but I'll just go through the conditions. The first one, all required improvements as described in the subdivision ordinance, as listed here, shall be detailed and located per the ordinance to the satisfaction of the village engineer and relevant staff. And those details should be included in a developer agreement as described by the subdivision ordinance. Number 2 is show contours at intervals of no less than 2 feet on a preliminary plat map. Looked like some of the numbers were there, but the lines weren't, so it just has to be turned on. Number 3, what we're talking about here, provide draft of the legal instruments and rules for the proposed homeowners association, including the maintenance plan for Outlot 5. And just as an aside, I guess that would include the funding mechanism for ensuring that that happens. Number 4, somewhat related, provide the village with the contact info for the representative of the homeowners association and keep that information updated as changes occur. Number 5, we're not specifically acting on zoning here tonight, but I put it in here that you could request considering PB zoning for Lot 7. Actually a typo, it should be NB, neighborhood business zoning. That would allow either for a small business that has limitations on it within the zoning ordinance, or it would allow some of the residential uses as a conditional use. That's another way to handle that. Number 6 would be to eliminate the sidewalk on the west side of Bus Road to discourage pedestrian activity near the cemetery. And then to that I would add, and we've discussed this earlier today, installing a 4-foot chain link fence along the east property line of the cemetery. That would be completed prior to completion of Bus Road. Number 7, payment of fee in lieu of parkland dedication is required for all units not accounted for through the actual dedicated parkland. Number 8, the restrictive covenants didn't really deal very specifically with how the existing trees are to remain on the site. So we'd like to see covenants amended to better address the protection and retention of existing trees on the wooded lots. Approaches could do that. To do that would include adding language stating an intention that lots 3 through 19 and 56 through 63 are to remain substantially wooded. Language stating that the home should be located on the site in a manner that best protects existing large trees. Requirement that the neighborhood's architectural control committee shall sign off on the removal of any tree larger than 18 inches. Inclusion of a detail or description of the best practices for protecting large trees during construction. There's also a point system within your covenants to deal with landscaping. You could require a higher number of landscaping points on those wooded lots and provide a higher number of points for protecting trees. This is another motivation for making those protections. And then Mick contacted me earlier today. He was also asking the Plan Commission to consider that the village would also have to sign off on tree removal of the large trees. Number 9 was to verify environmental corridor boundaries with Capital Area Regional Planning Commission and show the final boundaries on the plat. We actually started to do that yesterday. We had a meeting with the developer, myself, and CARPC's engineer. It sounds like right now we're waiting for the determination from the DNR on the status of the drainage ways on the site, whether they're navigable or not. If they're navigable, they're going to require a larger corridor, larger setbacks than if they're not. When we have that information, then we'll know the size. Number 10 was to provide a deed restriction for any private lot that's traversed by an environmental corridor, limiting land uses in the corridor to those allowed per our zoning ordinance, and I would add per CARPC's environmental corridor policies and criteria, which is a specific
And those
document.
conditions are acceptable to us. I would ask the village to think hard if it really wants to be policing what trees people decide to take down. I mean, I don't know if you do it, but I mean, that's not going to be a huge issue to us. It'll be in the deed restrictions, but somebody will have to police that.
Right.
Here's the concern. The reason that I think, the reason I have a concern with that is that the Architectural Control Committee, under your covenants, would have the sole discretion to sign off on the removal of any tree larger than 18 inches in diameter. And the problem with that is that the developer, from my perspective, the developer controls that architectural control, controls the architectural committee until the point in time when they decide to give that to the homeowner. So what you're really asking is for the developer to decide every tree, whether every tree is acceptable or not. And it's not, that to me is, I have concerns with that. And that's under section 3.1B of your covenants, that you have the ability to do that. So that was one concern. The other concern that I have with your covenants, the way they're drafted, is that in section 7.1, the developer can amend the declaration at any time. They can do that until they no longer own 50% of the lots. So we could approve this, and the developer could turn around the next day and just change the declaration. So my suggestion how to address that, I would recommend that the declaration be changed to require that any amendment to this be subject to review and approval by the village prior to recording, so that we know that that does not happen. Because we want to know the deal we're entering into here is the deal that we're going to get, and that it's not going to change at the whim of the developer.
I've never really seen that. I've seen some that are. I don't know if that's village policy, that every time there's an amendment to a subdivision declaration, it reviews it. I'm happy to certainly pick out specific ones. I mean, those requirements, we're going to keep our end of the deal on what's in the declaration. Most of the time, the amendment to the declaration is to cure events that come up that were unforeseen, and then, you know, you draft a declaration without knowing everything that's going to come up. Now it's inconsistent, and you can't, and you're dealing with a number of people trying to get it resolved. So, for example, the declaration is going to say something about an outlot. Well, how do we amend it if it turns out that all of a sudden the village and the developer saying, oh my God, we didn't think of this, we need to amend the declaration to allow for something else to happen here. And now we have to try to go out and get everybody that's subject, 25 lot owners to sign off on it. So that's what that's about. So I have seen certain ones like environmental corridors or so far done. And if that's the way it's going to be, that's fine. I'm just saying when you start thinking about the village, every time a subdivision comes in where they're going to try to maintain trees, saying we're going to be the final authority on all the different private lots on who, making the decision on who cuts down the tree, I've just not seen a village want to take that on or a staff want to take that on.
Kind of point of clarification, we're only talking about trees that are 18 inches in a diameter or more. And I think that's the issue there, is that, that's already an issue that would be, you've already agreed to, that would be addressed by your architectural control committee.
Yep.
Right? As I
I
said
just don't
before, the
usually see
concern
villages
is,
want it.
that's not, I don't see that really a concern once the homeowners that are there have control, but it is a concern that I have until that point in time, because the developer, it's meaningless. The developer can just always say, I want the tree out, and I take the tree out. Until that point, let's say it was even until that point in time, it seems reasonable that the village would have some say, or some third party should have some say in what the developer's going to do with the large trees.
If the village wants that authority, I'm saying I'm putting it out to the village. Do you really want that authority? Do you really want that responsibility? Because then every time a tree issue comes up, it becomes your issue.
Well, we have people on staff that certainly can look at trees and decide whether they're worth keeping or not keeping.
Private people's lots, I know. I'm okay with it. I'm saying you're making a policy decision. We're willing to work with your policy decision. I'm hearing the suggestion.
Step back. We're not making a policy decision. You're the one that drafted the covenants. You're the one that
Correct.
gave yourself carte blanche ability just to do whatever you wanted. All I'm saying is there should be some limitation. You could have put a limitation in your covenants. You have full control over what you drafted. We're just reviewing it. We're not setting policy here. We're reviewing something that you drafted and said, this is so wide open that it has no meaning. It has no ability to be enforced.
I think we're talking past each other. I'm willing to put a limitation in there. I'm asking the commission as a whole and staff, what do you really want that limitation to be? If it's any time something happens with the declaration, at any time in the future, the village is going to be signing off on it, I'm saying I just never see municipalities want to take that on. If you want to take that on, that's your decision. I'll put limitations in there. We don't have a problem with that. I'm asking you to think through what you really want that to be.
I think we should ask you to think through what you want that to be to start, and so that we would see what items you're willing to agree to.
Well, we took away from, so somebody's going to buy a lot and there's these trees on it. And we're already telling them that when you buy this lot, even though you're paying for it, and you're going to, with your house, spend between $300,000 and $400,000, and you're going to own it yourself, you're going to be subject to these restrictions that will be enforced originally by the developer and subsequently by your neighbors, including when and what trees you cut down. So I think we've put limitations on people. If you would like those to go forward, I'm welcome to say that during developer control, the village will also have to sign off on any trees that are taken down, and thereafter only the architectural committee, or we're welcome to say that after that, whenever a tree over 18 inches comes down, the village has to be notified and approve of it. We're welcome with both of those. We suggested it's just going to be the architectural control committee. My guess is the way it works out in practice, is a homeowner's actually gonna wanna cut down more trees when they decide where they wanna put their home, and the developer is gonna be the one saying no, because they wanna maintain the coverage over the lots, you know, in order to better protect it. So I don't really see it as an issue where the developer is just gonna be cutting down trees, it's gonna be somebody buys a lot. But, so you wanna pick any of those along that the village reviews every single time an 18-inch tree goes over, we'll put it in that way. We think it should just be the Architectural Control Committee, but if you want it just the Architectural Control Committee in the village until it's turned over, that's fine too.
Okay.
So
I think
any
that's
of the
what
three
we're
is
looking
fine
for.
with us.
Okay.
I want to hear what Aaron has to say about that.
We're equipped to do the over 18-inch.
Yeah, I mean, we have Forrester on staff, we could look at that.
Okay.
JJ, what do you think about that?
We have a forester on staff.
One.
Okay.
Staff will do whatever the planning commission or the board
Sure.
wants.
Aaron, is there more for your report, or should we turn over to Mike?
I think Mick brought up the other one about, another comment he had earlier today about the village being able to review any amendments to the covenants.
Okay. I know it's a little more stringent, but if you're okay with that, then I think that would be some tension.
Any amendments to the declaration? Yeah, we'll be fine with it. Yeah. I would ask to think through what that approval means, that every time the declaration is amended, say by the homeowners, is it going to come to the planning commission and then to the village board to be approved, kind of like a subsequent amendment to the subdivision plat approval? Because I'll just have to draft it in there.
Right.
So I would just ask staff to tell us how they want that approval to be, if it's just by staff, or is it by, to go through the, you know, the legislative process.
Right.
Are you proposing that every change
I think
that a
if Aaron and
homeowner
Mike,
wants to make has to go through planning
No, that's-
commission
No.
and then?
What we're talking about is only,
Aaron and Mike.
what we have is a declaration, which will be recorded. And it's only when the developer or even the homeowners want to make a change to that declaration that they need to come back. Because that's what we know. We know now they're going to say, we're going to keep up the easement, we're going to do this and that and this and that. If we don't have any sort of review in the future, they could say, you know what? We're not going to do that anymore. We're not going to keep this up. We're not going to keep that up because we're going to take it out of the declaration. So the thought there would be, if you want to make changes to the declaration that really affect the things that concern us, like keeping up the environmental easement or whatever, you know, whatever you want to pick, those are the items that would seem to me to make sense to say, you can't just go and take those out. Those have to stay in unless you come back and ask us again to change it. If it's really important to us, then they should be able just to go and change it if anytime they want to. You can come up with all kinds of scenarios, you know, it's like mowing an outlot or whatever you might have, but I mean, that's really the change. And the reality is, and I think you would agree to this, you aren't going to be making like 10 or 15 changes. I mean, it's pretty odd to see over 3 or 4 changes made to a declaration over 10 years, I would say. So it's not like we're looking at a lot of issues. And it's, you know, we certainly could delegate to staff to.
I think between Mike and Aaron, they could decide if it's important enough to just,
As long as a homeowner doesn't have to go through 3 months of meetings to make a change to his
Right.
own property. That's,
Exactly.
What I would propose is, what I'll do is try to consolidate all of the issues that are required by the approval of the subdivision, like the environmental corridors, the outlots, and put those in one section, in essence, and say, this section cannot be amended or changed without the approval of the village.
that seems more efficient.
Yeah.
I think that would be very acceptable to me.
Yeah.
You know, I agree with that insofar as we put conditions in the declaration. I agree, and that's not the intent, is to be able to unilaterally change the fact that there's going to be a stormwater pond that needs to be maintained.
Right.
You know, so that can't be, so I agree 100% with that point. And I'll try to rearrange it to make it easier.
Okay.
I mean, to make it very clear.
Okay. All right. Aaron, if you don't have anything else, I guess, Mike, you're up.
Sure. On the preliminary plat itself, we received,
Just a second. Yes, ma'am.
Can I just get clarification? Are we still on number 6, the public hearing?
We're still in a public hearing, yep. As soon as we get done with the staff reports, we're going to have an opportunity for questions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay, sorry, go ahead.
So we received the preliminary plat itself, stormwater management calculations, and preliminary engineering layouts for the streets for utilities, stormwater, preliminary look at Cottage Grove Road on the planimetrics of that. So our comments pretty much follow on that. Had a couple of comments that related to the mass grading plan, which has been amended in the plans that came in last week that address the tree areas as far as not being graded on. So basically with the plat, we looked at it too from a civil survey and the bearings and dimensions on the legal description, just verify that they match the courses on the plat before final plat. The contours are typically required on the preliminary plat, would need to be on. The street names, we're talking about street, I think it's B and C, and those need to be named. The intersection of Bus Road coming into what's now called Street B would be a T intersection in the future, and so we're giving the designers kind of some guidelines on how the road should be designed for that to occur, as well as utilities. The lot summary should state which lots are anticipated for multifamily. Just coordinate which the acreages we have, I guess, for fee determination on parkland, stormwater, and lift station. Remove the overhead utility lines. We're looking at what's coming across Cottage Grove Road and looking at buried utilities for the development. Remove the overhead utility lines crossing Cottage Grove Road as well as within the plat. Relocate the utility pole on the south side of Cottage Grove Road at Bus Road, which appears to be very close in conflict with the intersection as it would be developed in the future. Remove improperly abandoned wells and septic systems and provide village with closeout documentation on that. So those are our comments on the plat document itself. The master site plan has been updated to move the bike path to the west side of Fundamental Way. The typical cross-section would need to be updated to match that. The mass grading plan has been updated to just develop and move earth on the parts that won't affect the trees. The initial plan had a complete grading plan, so that's been adjusted. They'll need to do, before any construction, and this would be after final plat, they'll have to complete an erosion control checklist and land disturbance permit application with the village, which would be kind of a final check on all the items with stormwater being completed before construction and down the road here. The disturbance area is anticipated to be greater than an acre. Obviously, it'll be required the DNR NOI permit, stormwater. We'll have to have connections to Cottage Grove Road, and that's one thing they did bring in the newer plans. Inlets closer to Cottage Grove Road on the engineering, but we'll also need to look at the connections to Cottage Grove Road. The bike path that's shown along Cottage Grove Road as you head east from Fundamental Way will, and looking at their contours, will need a retaining wall. At that point, and heading east, the Cottage Grove Road is significantly higher than the lots, and to develop Cottage Grove Road, there would be a retaining wall. Then they provided a master utility plan. I'd just say on that, we have comments on the materials and slopes, and they'll be utilizing a lift station adjacent to the park, close to what's shown as a intermittent waterway, and that's one of the low points in the development. Ultimately, we'd like to see always a plan without having to tear up improvements in the future for gravity sewer service to service that. So we'll be looking for a dry pipe to be installed parallel with that dry creek bed. so that the village is protected in the future when gravity service is available. Plan and profile sheets, they'll be providing more details on that in the future on lighting, and LED lighting would be desired by the village. Stormwater management, at this point we have several comments on technical information on drainage areas, runoff coefficients, wet ponds, and details that they'll need for construction that we'll need to approve before that. So there's significant elements there that were commented on requiring that. And that typically, the details for detention pond construction, for instance, come out after platting. And final comment, again, that stormwater management needs to take into account Cottage Grove Road. We also received comments from the town engineer, and we concur with those comments. One comment was related to whenever you are proposing a development, you can manage what you can as far as collecting it. You have some rear yards that from the lots that may drain directly to a waterway, and those we call untreated, but then they have a compensation plan for that to over-treat the areas they can. So that's been addressed in a response to the town engineer's preliminary comment. Another comment we concur with is currently the plan shows 2 stormwater pipes heading from Fundamental Way through the residential lots to the east to collect 2 low areas, one about a quarter of the way down from Cottage Grove Road and the other one about 2/3 of the way down from Cottage Grove Road. So there were 2 low areas that could drain westerly onto this plat. And the comment we received back from the design team about flood control and that we didn't find acceptable. We would want to make sure there's a clear route to the west to Fundamental Way from those so that there isn't a backwater buildup in that area. And that would be from the Coke Pipeline area heading in. And that appears to be something that they can do. So it's just a final detail they need to incorporate. And then we'd want to see an easement on those, above those stormwater pipes. That would be that 100-year flow capability taken to Fundamental Way. And the other town comment, town engineer comment was related to the chain link fence, which Aaron Ruth had discussed as a village comment.
You okay with engineering requirements that Mike has talked about?
Yes.
All right, that brings us to questions from Plan Commission members, and then we will get public comment after that. Any further questions for the developer at this point? Okay, as far as public comment, we do have several people that have registered to speak. I'll just take them in the order that they gave me their sheets here. First one, and we asked that with the amount of people here tonight, if you could limit the comment to like 3 minutes, that would be, I think, helpful for everyone. Bill? Yep. Phil Boatman? Just come on up here. If you could identify yourself and you're free to speak.
I'll sit here, I can see a little better.
Sure.
Can I move that back just a little bit?
Yeah, we can move it back.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, you can relax, I'm not going to read this, I got 2 sheets.
Okay.
I've listened here for 15 minutes, you people.
Bill, what's your address?
Oh, I'm sorry. Name's Phil Boltman, I live at 2828 Alliedar Way in Meadow Grove Edition.
Okay.
My property does not touch the proposed property here, but it's close.
Okay.
A lot of discussion going on here as to problems and stuff like this, and I can tell you a simple solution, that is vote no. You know, that'll take care of it, and I'll try to give you some more ideas. I've lived here at this address for 29 years, come this fall. I am also on the Town of Cottage Grove Plan Commission, so I kind of know what you're going through. My being here tonight, though, is because I'm concerned as a citizen, taxpayer, and hopefully a good neighbor in the Meadow Grove community. I do not want to see this area cheapened by development of undersized lots and the destruction of these centuries-old woods. We moved to a small farm on Baxter Road in the fall of 1948. Moved in on a Sunday, got on the school bus on Monday. We picked up 15 students around the Cottage Grove area, went to Sun Prairie High School. Population of Cottage Grove didn't change much in the 40s and 50s. And I have a question. Can anyone here tell me what the population was in the 40s and the 50s?
400.
I'm sorry?
400.
309 it said on the board down here. It didn't change between 50 and 40 every 10 years like it's supposed to because there was no growth. 309 people. Then Ali Seldal built the current shopping center, started development behind it. After that, the building started in the northwest corner of N and BB, and now the village has grown from 309 to about 6,400. Surely a lot faster than other villages of that size in that time. I've often heard the saying that we need more tax base to grow. That is probably so, but at whose expense? With new homes come new expenses. With all the growth the village has had in the last 20 years, who here tonight is paying less taxes? See, nobody. No one? Okay. In a recent article in the Herald Independent, the village wants to build new buildings, buy equipment, hire more help. And is this the real benefit of increasing the tax base? Already, there are between 50 and 100 acres of undeveloped commercial property in the village. Why? I know the village has appointed study committees, panels, and groups and others to find out why. Truth is, either the land is priced too high or no one wants to come here.
About 30 seconds, Phil, if you don't mind.
I'm sorry?
About 30 seconds, if you don't mind, just to wrap it. We're trying to limit comments to about 3 minutes, so be pretty good.
I'll never make it.
You can take some of my time.
Quite, you know, I'm sorry, Mr. President, but 3 or 5 minutes is a short time to cut off something that's going to affect people the rest of their lives. But I'll try and do what I can.
Sure.
Okay. Overland Crossing development, right across the road. Approved 2 years ago. 190 new units for residential occupancy. Helgren property just annexed by the village with about 65 houses planned. Lots of lots left north of the Galatian Drummond School. Now you're talking about another 100 lots. The people who are making the money are the seller, of course, developer, real estate salesman, a few local builders. When is the village going to say enough is enough and slow down, take a deep breath, and regroup with the right priorities? As quickly as I can, let's talk about school taxes. The latest town and village long-range comprehensive plan stating there's 1.1 student to 1 unit ratio. Unit is home, duplex, condo, apartment. When I receive my tax statement about Christmas time each year, I get upset. 2/3 of my taxes go to pay for schools. And I haven't had a child in school for 37 years. Something has to change. In the Herald Independent about a year ago, I got these numbers. Do you know what it costs to educate one child today? $15,000. Might be higher now, it was a year ago.
6 minutes,
Okay. And state credits, about $4,000. Guessing there's about $3,000 paid from each unit of school taxes. Leaves a deficit of $8,000 per student. that we're all paying for. The Monona Grove school system would add another $800,000 for us taxpayers if this is approved. 100 units, $8,000 each, $800,000. And if there's 1.5 kids, that's $1.2 million. Now add this to the proposed 190 units in Overlook and 65 units in Helgeland, could be $2.5 to $4 million more in taxes.
Mr. Bolton, we'll just ask you to wrap it up if you could, please. Just for time's
Okay,
sake.
I'd like to say a lot more, but I hope that you people, when you go home tonight, if there's a vote, will be able to look at yourselves tomorrow and say you did the right thing for the village and not yourself.
Thank you.
Okay?
Next we have, if I get, Bill Dunlop at 161 Horizon Drive, Verona, just registering in favor, not wishing to speak. Chris Hampton, 3310 County Highway N, said you want to come up and speak.
Chris Hampton, live at 3310 County Road N in Cottage Grove. I really want to look at the map, because apparently it's changed since the one that was sent to me. I'm really wondering where the environmental corridors are going to be on this. I guess I don't see them marked, but I was curious if they could be shown at all yet or not.
Same location as they were in the carb seed materials. And we can show you there in the back too, so where the stream is.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So, as Aaron was saying, we are still waiting for DNR confirmation on the intermittent streams, one of which is here, and the other one which is here. Typically, CARPC, what they do is when you have stormwater management facilities, they typically designate your stormwater management facilities as environmental corridors. So that would include this parcel, that would include this parcel, as well as the park. They don't want the station here. They also had this outlot designated as an environmental corridor, but recognizing that it doesn't have any sort of natural resource facility within it, it's not required. It's something that they could go either way on. I think we could go either way on it. And I think the village, we're all kind of undecided on which way that should go, but it's definitely not a required corridor for that outlot.
And where's the park going to be located?
The park is located right here.
Okay, thank you. And I guess my only other question as to what the village has done in the past where the coal pipeline has gone through a residential area, has that land been owned by the homeowner with just the easement for coke, or has it been treated as an outlot?
I used to own a piece of property that the coke pipeline went through, and I owned it.
You just had an easement for them.
Yeah, there was just an easement.
So it's probably just an easement that they own it, so they'd have to maintain it.
Well, if you make it part of the homeowner's property, they would maintain it.
Right.
Probably far better than the homeowners association or Coke Pipeline, like you did.
Yeah.
Better not plant a tree on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
Oh, and thank you for taking our town engineer's comments.
Okay. Mike Duplay at 2712 Nightingale Way, if I got that right, Mike. Not a village resident, just wishing to register against. Matt Haas, if I've got that right, from JSD. Not a village resident, registering in favor. And Ann Byrne, 2835 Rhea Ridge, so if I got that correctly. All right, you want to come up and speak?
Thank you. I'm Ann Krebs-Byrne, 2835 River Ridge Circle. Thank you for this opportunity. Despite the letter from the school district that said that they don't feel that education of our children will be compromised, I want to take this opportunity to make sure everybody is aware of what changes will be coming if we add more children to our school district. I had a conversation with Jared Rossing, R-O-S-S-I-N-G, from the school district, and he provided me with these details. I did not ask specifically for these things. He told me these things. So with the addition of families to the Monona Grove School District, it could include accommodations to accommodate these additional families, could include busing children from Cottage Grove to Monona to attend school in Monona, and this would be done by grade level, so it wouldn't, this is straight from Jared Rossing.
I
You
was
can
on
check
the
the
ad hoc
facts with
committee.
him.
I was on the ad hoc committee for grade configuration when they tried to do that before. It's too ridiculously expensive. They won't do
Jennifer,
that.
I respectfully ask that I have my time to
Yeah,
speak.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
And
You're
I
right.
am
You're right.
presenting the information from Jared
You're right.
Rossing. You
I
can take it
apologize.
up with him if you disagree.
I apologize.
Okay, so yes, busing our children from Cottage Grove to Monona by grade level is a possibility. That means that if you have 3 children in the school district and one of them is in grade 5 and grade 5 is going to get bused, your other 2 children stay in Cottage Grove and you've got one going to Monona. Real possibility. Adding trailers to our schools is another possibility, straight from Jared Rossing. Having art teachers and other teachers sharing a classroom. So there wouldn't be an art classroom and there wouldn't be a technology education classroom. You'd have teachers in multiple subjects sharing a classroom. There are lots of challenges to that. I'm an educator and I can tell you it's not an ideal situation. You would have teachers who right now are serving unique need children, who have their offices in classrooms right now. They would give up that classroom and those desks, those offices would be moved into other classrooms where children are being served. So we would have to make room in those classrooms for those teachers' offices. Lunch, right now we have lunch at least in one school starting at 10:30 in the morning. Lunch could be moved up even earlier than that to accommodate more classes of children. So if these additional children added to our school district make up an entire classroom in a school, for example, if we would take our 3rd graders and move them to Monona, and so then we have an additional 3rd grade classroom there, they would have to make adaptations to the lunch times. Right now, 10:30 is the earliest in one of our schools. He even mentioned 9:30 as a possibility, and that's not even lunch anymore. Increasing the number of classes, so if we get a whole group of 2nd graders or 4th graders and they go to Monona, adding additional classes will affect gym availability for Phi-Ed, library access, and cafeteria time for lunches. In addition to this, Mr. Rossing told me that there is another referendum coming and that right now the school district is negotiating the purchase of land west of Cottage Grove. We are still paying on the old referendum to build Glacial Drumlin. This would be additional taxes. So we have the way our children are being served declining, and we have, if we have to add more families, and we have this referendum coming which will increase our taxes. My question is, what is the benefit to current residents in Cottage Grove to add this subdivision? Frankly, I can't find a benefit to anyone except the landowners. For the rest of us, it will mean a negative impact on the arrangements for our children's schools and more property taxes on our bills. Keep in mind the education of our children right now is, the quality is excellent here in Monona Grove School District. Adding more children will disrupt the arrangements that we have right now, and we will be paying more taxes to build yet another school. I've been told that the village will get more tax money from new subdivisions, but there are also increased expenses, more roads to maintain, more people to serve by our police and fire departments. I'm curious if the residents of the village saw a tax decrease with each subdivision that's been built in recent years. I'm going to wrap up. Again, as far as I can see, no current village or town residents stand to benefit from this subdivision going in. If there are benefits, I'd ask that you please share them with us so we can balance them with the negatives. There's one party that we know stands to benefit, and they don't live in Cottage Grove. and they don't really have a vested interest in the education of our children or what will happen to our property taxes here. For these reasons, I'm opposed to this potential subdivision, especially at its current level of density, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ann. That is everyone that we had registered to speak. So now we can close the public hearing. Is that correct?
I didn't register. I didn't realize I had to.
If you want to speak, yeah, we'll need you to fill out a sheet so we have a record of who wants to talk.
Can I do it afterwards? Or do you want me to fill
As
it
long
out?
as we get it tonight and you identify yourself when you come up there. Okay. Just name and address, please.
Vincent Whittick at 417 Clearbrook Terrace, Cottage Grove. I made a couple notes here. I probably won't be as eloquent as the others, but I read the questions to the superintendent, and some of it didn't make sense to me. Will the addition of Shady Grove subdivision negatively impact the district's ability to educate students at the present level of quality? No. Are district schools now considered overcapacity? Yes. Glacial Drummond is overcapacity. How can the answer be no to number one if already one of the schools is overcapacity? Question 3. Would the addition of Shady Grove cause any district schools to become overcapacity? No. Yet they just, in the previous question, said yes, they're already overcapacity. So I guess maybe it wouldn't cause it because it's already overcapacity. And the metric they used here, the 0.715 students per housing unit, is that a measure between in the district or in Cottage Grove? Because while this is probably anecdotal, I believe there's a lot more young families in Cottage Grove than there are in Monona, which means the students per housing unit is likely higher in Cottage Grove than it is in Monona. And so I question the 75 students. And like I said, that it's probably anecdotal. And I don't know what they used in that study. I don't have a problem building houses in Cottage Grove. I guess my position is that as a person who's lived across the street from duplexes in the past, it didn't help my home value. And for every study you show me that says that they do, I can show you one that says they don't. And so, having to sell a house with a duplex across the street, where the yard wasn't maintained, where there were tons of cars in the streets, a semi-truck parked in front of my mailbox 3 days a week, difficult to sell my house, and the neighborhood wasn't kept up in a way that I thought was good for the community. And I don't know if there's any law enforcement here, and I can only speak to what I read online and what I hear, is that it seems like the crime in Cottage Grove seems to center in areas that have a lot of duplexes in those areas. So I would question, I get why you put duplexes on Cottage Grove Road, because who wants a house on Cottage Grove Road? But I might advocate to say that you would put a park there instead of a duplex. And that might be a better use. I guess I'm really against the duplexes. Although the other folks did make good points, I'm up here really just to ask that you not put more duplexes in Cottage Grove. I drive down towards Culver's down Main Street, and I see all the duplexes, backyards there, and I think it doesn't look good. And I don't want to drive down another road where I have to look at the backyards of a bunch of duplexes. I realize that makes me sound like a snob, but I'm really not. I just want the community to look nice, and I think the duplexes would take away from the look on the streets. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Just need to fill out a sheet? Okay. If not, at this point, we'll close the public hearing.
You do have the one email if you want.
We do have an email from a town resident, I'm assuming, that could not make it. I'll just read it into the record, and I'll try to pronounce the name right. Jody Amerell, Amerell. And she just had some questions regarding traffic, well and septic, which I believe the applicant has addressed, future plans at the temporary cul-de-sac on the plan, restrictions, again, multifamily buildings, as the other gentleman was talking about, and traffic crossing of Vilas and Cottage Grove Road, which I think you've addressed also in your plan. So we'll just enter that into the record since she's not here. Okay, at this point we'll close the public hearing. And next item is number 7, discuss and consider the request from Monona Grove Development Incorporated for approval of a preliminary plat for the proposed Shady Grove subdivision located at 2863 County Highway BB. Is there a motion? Otherwise, at this point, I will move that we approve their request.
So moved.
I'd like to make an amendment, though.
With staff requirements and the requirement that you had with regarding the separate environmental corridor section that we discussed.
I just want to make sure that it's clear what we were agreeing to. I think we were agreeing to, I think what I heard is that the developer owner would agree to provide a list of items in the declaration that would be subject to review and approval by the village prior to recording of an amendment. That was one.
You mentioned creating a separate section, like for the trees and stuff.
Or identifying them, right? Just want to make sure it's clear in my mind.
That was in addition to engineering and Aaron's requirements.
And then that the developer owner, there was another issue that I just wanted to bring up. We have the ability under our code to require an informational meeting. And we have a lot of people here tonight. And I'd just like to state, under this section, I would ask that this be included, that the developer owner would have an informational meeting with the neighborhood, and that they would discuss the items that are listed to be required to be discussed in section 274-16 subsection D. The information that is to be discussed at those meetings, I'll just say it here for just so everyone here is aware of it. It says the presentation shall include information relative to traffic, stormwater, environmental corridors, preservation of the environmental area, and any other matters which would impact the village's resources.
Okay.
And I just want to state the reason I think it's important, because there are a lot of people here tonight that really have a lot of concerns, and I think it would be a good idea for the owner/developer to talk with them before they come to the village board, saying that we approve it tonight.
All right, is the applicant okay with, I think you said you were okay with holding an informational meeting?
Sure.
Okay. So if you're okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so adding that to the requirements, so staff requirements, engineering requirements, the separate environmental corridor section, and the informational meeting.
Number 6 here, we'd also add installing the fence.
The chain link fence by the cemetery, yep. Okay, with those conditions? Okay.
Yeah. Can I say
It,
something?
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question? On your amendment, is the developer to provide those before the final plat is
Before precise implementation plan?
Yeah, I mean,
My thought would be that the developer would have this meeting with the neighborhood before it comes to the village board, so that there's already been an opportunity. If there's other issues that come up, that would be a good time to have them come up and address.
I was actually talking about the declaration.
Oh, the declaration?
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess I defer to staff when they think it'd be best.
Okay. All right.
I just want to say I understand the initial concern of new people, but I have to tell you, I moved here in 1998 with my 6-month-old daughter and my husband, and we rented a duplex. And then we built a duplex. And then we built a new home in a new subdivision. And then we built another new home in a new subdivision. And I feel like we've contributed to society. I don't think that we have been a downfall. Change is hard, but it doesn't have to be. I can't believe that the welcoming of new people to our community would be so offensive to people, because I was new once, and I'm guessing John was new once. Matt, you don't live here. But, I mean, there's new people all the time. That doesn't mean it's bad. And my kids have both grown up in the school district. We've watched new people come in. Most of their friends are not people that have lived here their whole life. So let's just be open to new people.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second then to approve with the conditions listed from staff, engineering, and the environmental corridor and the amendment that Mick had. Is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, our next item is Summit Credit Union. They need to put the screen up for a presentation, I'm assuming, so we'll take a 5-minute recess. I guess 10 minutes to 8. Let's be back in. Item number 8 is discuss and consider the application from Summit Credit Union for approval of a precise implementation plan for a new headquarters office building located at 1709 Landmark Drive. And the documents were in your packet electronically, and we have the architect and some folks here from Summit tonight to give us a presentation.
Thank you for having us. So, my name is Peter Tan. I'm an architect, Strang Architects for this project. And we have here Kim Sparnham, who is the President CEO of Summit Credit Union, and Jeremy Appler, who is the VP of Facilities and Risk Management.
So I just wanted to start out by saying, thanking you for all the support that you've had on this project with Summit Credit Union. We are really excited to locate our headquarters here. We're a business since 1935, and we've been growing, we've been adding jobs, we have strong commitment to the communities that we serve, and being a good employer is important to us. So this project has a lot of very different pieces that really encompasses Summit's culture. The auditorium, for example, and the wellness areas of the credit union, not only from a cafeteria perspective, but using one of our local businesses, local businesses for that, but also the workout facility and the outdoor recreational spaces. We also are, it's important to us that we go for the LEED certification, and so we're going to try at the silver level. So we think that brings together some its holistic approach to financial services and to being a good employer and a good corporate citizen. So thank you so much for all of your support. We are excited to be part of Cottage Grove. I'm a resident of Cottage Grove. We were excited to make that commitment to the village. And I just want to also mention that your process, we work with a lot of different municipalities. We have 33 locations throughout South Central Wisconsin, 3 of which are in high schools. And not every municipality is this good. So thank you for that. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Kim. So, first slide here is a slide from the GDP, and so for the most part, the project is site plan is pretty much in keeping with what the GDP is. As you can see, the building is here, parking is around here. There is stormwater management areas here, which is outdoor recreation, future building, future parking. So the concept of the site is pretty much the same as the GDP that we approved a few months ago. So just to orientate ourselves, the interstate is here, highway end is here, and north is south. And the approach to the site comes from the south here, and the turnaround is right here, and the main entrance to the building is right there. So and I'm going through the requirements for the PIP, and this is a vicinity map showing all the neighboring properties, and these are PO around here, some residential right next door. And so the next is just an overall site precise implementation plan. So it's a 6-story headquarters building. Above ground is 157,000 square feet. Underground parking is about 40,000 square feet. And the proposed land uses for this PIP is consistent with what's in the GDP office, credit union branch. We do have now in our site plan a drive-up teller right here, an auditorium, cafeteria around an outdoor courtyard, training areas on the second floor mainly, wellness areas for the staff, 88 underground parking stalls, the entrance is right there, 435 surface parking stalls wrapping around the back of the building, and walking paths through the site, and outdoor active recreation. There's a volleyball court right there. The loading dock is right here, screened, well screened from the surroundings. So, in terms of, this is a chart showing the zoning standards of the PO district, and then the proposed development. So, the land use is consistent, office across the way. We are requesting a slight amendment to the GDP. As we calculated the future building, we'd like to propose that it's a 0.5 FAR. That would allow us to have about a 90,000 square foot building in the future to the south. Minimum landscape ratio would stay the same in the GDP because currently the PIP has 57 landscape service ratio. Now we are requesting the building front setback be reduced to 10 feet. And that's only because as we laid things out, this drive-up teller, and we'll show you images of it in just a moment, is just over 10 feet from the property line. And we designed it so that it would be, it's almost more like a monument sign for the site. and the architecture of it is very much in keeping with the rest of the building. So we're requesting that the front setback be reduced to 10 feet from 20. So that's our second request. Now the side setback, the existing GDP, we had these as rather large setback requirements. We thought we'd like to request that we amend it so that it matches the PO district. Which will give us
Jump in. I think the higher numbers were just showing the distance to the building. I don't think we actually changed the setback to that. I think they were just comparing it to the setback, so I don't think that's even a change.
Okay. So, and everything else is pretty much consistent. 5-foot setback for paved surface area, side and rear, paved surface setback, the street's 10. The building that we're proposing is 6 floors and 90 feet high. And the off-street parking ratio is 3.5 as in the GDP. Okay, so this is a listing of the kind of the exceptions that we are asking for. The FAR, the setback, and the side and rear setbacks. Okay. Themes and images. We have a stormwater detention pond on site, which is right here. And this is just an image of what it might look like with a landscaped edge. And we have with us Bill Dunlop from GSD, who's a civil engineer. And Bill, he's talked to us about the grading stormwater management plan and all how we're handling stormwater on the site.
The site basically drains from the west to the east, and it is part of the Commerce Park, so there were facilities constructed as part of that park that we will tie into. One of the requirements in the covenants is to provide an infiltration area of 10% of the roof area, and we have provided that in here. And in addition, the regional basin provides storm water treatment and runoff rate control. We do need to provide oil and grease removal, and we do that with the inlet filters within the inlets throughout the parking area. There was one area that we found that we basically we're going to have to drain past the front of the building. So what we did was actually, we will be treating that stormwater in a basin here, a wet basin, and then that will discharge into an infiltration basin, and then the overflow will go out. So we're actually providing a little treatment above and beyond what was required by the covenants, because we needed to because of the drain and the placement of the building. So that routes it, and that will meet the state requirements. We've provided a stormwater management plan to the village engineer for review. In addition, as part of the LEED certification, there will be an on-site rainwater harvest cistern in the front of the building, which will collect water from the roof, generally about the first half-inch of rainfall, and that will be stored and used for irrigation. And then the remainder of anything above that half-inch of repeated rainfalls would go into the wet basin and then ultimately be infiltrated. So in addition to doing what was required by the covenants, those additional features have been added.
Thanks, George. Okay, site lighting. We've designed the site to meet a minimum luminance of 0.2 foot candles, and you're requesting that be the case in lieu of the 0.4 foot candles as requested by the commercial ordinance. And this, so that it will meet again the LEED light emission reduction goals and energy usage requirements for LEED. And it also is consistent with the IES. IES is the Illumination Engineer Society recommendations. And And it is pretty much the common standard now for office building parking in other municipalities. So, and in terms of exit lighting, the lumens requirements are higher there. So in fact, on this side too, many areas close to the building will be actually more than 0.2 foot candles. So that's the overall vision for the site. Just showed some photos of some of the light fixtures that are up front of the building so that they will be a little more decorative and a little lower to the ground, again keeping the architecture of the building. So, and they're all cut-off fixtures to kind of meet dark sky requirements. So that's another request of us for your consideration today. And just some images of a prairie restoration, outdoor gathering spaces, and outdoor exercise volleyball court. And this is a landscape concept. So there's landscape active recreation areas, that's the outdoor sand volleyball court. There are walking paths through the site, right here. Okay. The parking lot trees, we are proposing low deciduous trees, and maturity to be 18 feet tall, and that's consistent with the GDP, or requested as approved in GDP. And in terms of, in lieu of shrubs, we are requesting the use of native plantings, native prairie plantings that tie the site to the context and to facilitate stormwater management. Because prairie plants have much deeper and more extensive root masses, which will really help as a sponge to kind of capture stormwater and release it slowly. So just point out to you the overall landscape design idea for the site. So it's all color coded. So we have seed, whatever is in green here, it's prairie seed for 3 to 4 foot height. Then right at the corners, right here we have a short grass prairie seed 2 to 3 feet high. Cool. And woodland plugs that are shade tolerant because that's kind of north of the building. And then we go to the plugs. And the plugs are right so that they are much more established right from when we were go, with the execution of the project. You have short grass plugs right here, and a wildflower plug right, the more showy prairie plants right near the entrance, this side of the main entrance, and on this side, which will help screen the member parking right there in front of the building. And then it's backed up. Backing up this towards the building is a tall grass plugs right near the building, so it kind of steps up to the building. Then the stormwater management area has a stormwater area seed mix, and the rest of the site is a no-mow lawn seed mix like fescues. And then just around the volleyball court and the outdoor patio area where the cafeteria is just some bluegrass. So that's the only bluegrass on the project. So we're really looking at something that really emphasizes sustainability and native plantings for the site. Okay. Themes and images, architecture and materials. This is actually, and these are images that we actually showed you at the GDP level, and they're still relevant. So this is the building, the Summit Building at Rimrock Road, and so what we're proposing is a mix. So 3 colors of brick, 2 colors of metal panel, silver metallic, and a copper. It's a paint, but it looks like a copper color. For some accents and interest. There's just some gray metal panel, gray glass, and anodized aluminum window frames. So this building here has this pallet brick, the manganese iron spot brick, and a clear anodized aluminum color for the metal panel. A few other images that we're using a kind of a deep bronze colored brick, and that's actually a photograph of this copper colored metal panel, aluminum metal panel. And so that's the palette colors, and this is a southwest perspective view from the south, right there, southwest, as you approach the building, and the main entrance to the building is right there. As you swing around slightly, it shows the view of the building with the drive-up teller in front of it. And then as you swing around to the southeast, this is the auditorium cafeteria wraps around that outdoor space. This is a celebration room right here. The main entrance to the building is right there. And then you swing around to the northeast, the view from the highway. And there's an aerial view showing the massing of the building right there. And you can see the loading areas are very well screened from the highway and from the context. There's a large and medium training rooms right here, a two-story portion, then celebration room, and the office tower. And that's a staff entrance right there. And as you can see, the building is designed as a four-sided building. There's no real back. It's really seen on all four sides. Now swinging around to the northwest view. That's the view from here, from the highway again. Okay, and the view looking west. Pretty much that's the view you'd see as you get off the highway, the interstate highway, the view of the building like that. So that, I think we walked around the building. Now it's just some elevations to show the proportions of the building. So the building is designed so that it's got a base, a shaft, a capital, very classically composed, and some elevations of the drive-up teller, again with the character in keeping with the building, and the north and east elevations. So signage. So these are the themes and images of signage. This is the Summit Branch in West Alex, right on Greenfield Avenue, right next to E94. And we've got internally lit wall signs and a sign, rooftop sign as well. And we're proposing both of them. They're both internally lit, both professionally made, and then just this is also another image that we showed you at the GDP level. Some logos, at the top of the building, to kind of act as an accent to the top of the building. Okay, and this is the views that we showed at the GDP level, right? We've got logos at the top of the building and the Summit sign and some signage right at the entrance, in the south facing, and then another logo right here. And this is what we're proposing, and I think in your packets you'll be able to read the dimensions of the signs that you're proposing, and how we came up with the sizes of the signs, and we just looked at it, and basically we scaled the sign so that it would be pleasing in proportion to the rest of the building, and that's kind of what guided our design here. Okay, so those are the south side elevations. There's another sign right here above the entrance. And then the west view, the GDP drawing for the west view, and this is the west elevation that we're proposing with a sign on the stair tower, and it creates a nice accent to the stair tower. and the northwest view from the highway, and the GDP drawing. And we're proposing, again, a sign here and a sign there. Pretty much the same as what you have on the south. And then the northeast view, with signage as you come on the interstate, you get to see the sign on this side. And we're proposing one solid sign right there, facing east. And the signage for the driver teller, again, we designed it like, we are not proposing any monument signs for this project. Because we thought, well, just integrate it into the driver teller, and consistent with the roof sign, we have one on the driver teller as well. And I think, yeah, that's it. So.
Any questions for the architect? And Naren and Mike, anything from staff and engineering that you can contribute?
Yeah, if there's no questions, I can.
I have a question.
Yep.
On the signs, how many signs and logo spots do you have on the building total? And including the ancillary building that you currently
Ancillary building. I haven't counted. I could quickly count. Let's see. It's consistent with the GDP as approved. In fact, I think there are a few more signs in GDP than we have. But okay, let's count, right? Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4. 5. 6, 7, 8. 8, and we are not putting one here, whereas the GDP has that. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Tim, what my concern is, I don't mind having any signs, but if these are a single tenant signage, the single tenant signage, I think it's great, because this building is so, it's going to be so prominent when people drive down, when they're driving down the highway, they're going to see it's going to be so prominent, it's going to be kind of an entrance to Cottage Road. The concern I have is that these were looked upon as being multiple tenant signs. That would be, that's a real concern I have, because under our sign code, you would need to come back in, the way I understand, to get approved for a multi-tenant sign. So you can take any one of those signs, as long as you didn't change the size of it. You could stick someone else's logo on there, or signage. And that would, to me, would be an issue, because then you're going down the road and you could see 12 different signs. It would just be, I don't think it would have the image I'd at least like to see when I'm driving down the road. So I think my concern is whether these are all single tenant signs. It's a single tenant sign package. I think that's great. If it was to be multiple tenant package going forward now, I think I have some concerns about that. But I think you're looking at only as a single tenant sign package.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it would be quite a cacophony, I think, if it would be.
I mean, you don't plan to have
right.
multiple companies and some like with different names or whatever.
Absolutely, I think because, for example, right, if you look at this, I mean, there is a certain kind of relationship between that and that, right? And they're kind of talking to each other, they kind of balance each other out. If you start actually changing, and they're different, and there's a totally different kind of look and kind of sense to the.
My concern is like if someone has like a mortgage unit that's called.
We don't have any entities that are subsets of Summit that are called Summit.
Okay.
You can write the condition that we're making the exception specific to these signs. If something else is going to happen, they would have to.
We're not like a bank holding company.
Mike, the water infiltration that he mentioned sounded really neat to me, the way it's in the basins and then used for irrigation. Is that all going to work from engineering, and you're good with that?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
going to work. And I assume that will just, be stored when you need it. I mean, if it's in springtime and so they're not really counting on it, like part of stormwater is to collect water and not release it or whatnot. There could be seasons maybe where you wouldn't even irrigate, so you may have to just release it. I don't think that's part of their plan as far as they need that, but it's kind of a lead certification element, I believe.
It would probably be used primarily during the summer months, other times of the year.
Yeah.
But it would probably be full and then the water would pass through.
Okay.
There were a couple elements that, I think just if you have the site plan or possibly the landscaping plan. The development team can step in at any time, but there's a trail that goes around the road, and it's shown as kind of more of a natural shape, like a nature trail in a way. And the plan right now, from what I understand, is Summit doesn't want to pave that right now because the other building's not in. And if you could describe kind of what you're going to put down there, just to make sure that's okay with Plan Commission and everything.
What's being proposed is basically an aggregate surface, much like your trails in the DNR system, where it's an aggregate trail. Pretty much crushed limestone, that type of an aggregate. And it would be more a natural setting, and in the future, if things like sidewalks were a part of that plan, then that's what they would be doing. But this allows us to provide the access, provide the areas for people to move around the site, but have some flexibility for what's being done in the future.
The winter, it would be closed in the winter then, or would it require maintenance for winter?
We would have to examine
Just, okay.
It's really, for the community or for the staff who want to walk around outside, get some exercise on breaks, consistently tie in a little bit with, the concept of the Glacial Grumman Trail.
And then the development team had some questions on the turnaround area, if that could be no trucks or whatnot. And I guess our concern with that is if a truck happens to take a wrong turn even, there needs to be a way around if it's a semi or whatnot. So I think the plan is to make the infield, just a part of the infield, like a roundabout might be some kind of reinforced sod behind outside the street area in case a semi needs to make that.
And that's basically something that we'll discuss with the staff and come to some agreement on.
Okay.
There are a variety of different options. That's one of them. I think if you actually go back to one of the other site plans earlier, we actually laid out what would happen if the semi went around there. Keep going. There's one I saw that had it in there. That one. If you see that dark area, that would be where a semi's back wheels would run.
Sure.
If he went through there. Needless to say that somebody to do that would have had to have made that decision to drive down that single lane road, but there are people who will do it. Occasionally.
So what?
So it comes down to how much risk we want to take on having that turf being rutted by a truck going on it. And
So
we'll discuss that with the staff and come to some agreement.
Right, and we discussed this with the Summit team, and currently the desire is to initially for this project we'd like to put the sign there, say no trucks, and then see how that works and whether that would be a problem. So for now, instead of going through right now and move in to put the grass paved product and to reinforce it to see whether that's actually a problem first. And then we can go back and then do it rather than invest it may not be an issue, that the sign would be potentially sufficient. That, okay, most people will be able to see the sign and not do it.
And we are talking about basically a wayward tractor trailer truck. We've run the turning templates, well, turning modeling for both fire engine types for the village, and those stay on pavement. So we're talking a truck that's larger than that, but your fire vehicles would go through and there's no encroachment on the grass there.
We're just really looking for big semis to go around the site as designed.
Sure.
And as Peter said, you know, if it became a big issue, I mean, I would think a big semi driver wouldn't want to get stuck in that.
Wouldn't do it twice.
Yeah, but you know, it could happen, and if it happened often and we were replacing sod, then we would say, okay, let's put in what we need to put in to reinforce that. But
Because, I mean, the thought is that even if the semi came this way, and they got to this point and said, whoops, they would do this and back out, right? Potentially.
Right.
Right there, it wouldn't go much further than that point, because I mean, that's still potential. You could actually do like that.
Did you
Nick?
include ladder truck
Yeah.
in that term?
Yes, and the actual turning movements of the provided a picture of it. And we sat down with the fire department and went over each one of the trucks and the turning movements way back in June.
And would you point out that area to be vacated and give us the reason why you want that area to be vacated?
Oh, the area that vacated in the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, I think it's about
Okay.
3,400 feet or something like that.
Yeah, so, this is the real one. Let me just- Okay, so, the existing property line is right there. And you'll keep vacating that, you're just pushing that down a little bit, because as you can see from the site right here, this is actually the pinch point. Okay? So the idea, for the site is that you've got the building here, you want to have 2 aisles of parking with an island between, and then the entrance to the building. The building is effectively 124 feet wide to take 2 aisles of underground parking. So that sets the width of the building there, entrance. And then you've got a kind of a drop-off area here with some member parking. And then you wanted to have enough of a green buffer right here as an island as well. So if you add all that up, you felt that you needed to kind of vacate that to just make it just enough so that all that would be able to fit and work proportionately. So that was, overall that was the design idea for that, and why we were requesting that. And that still allows the fire engine turnaround. Everything works out pretty nicely.
Okay. Any other question, Mike?
And then the new shape, I guess, would be rededicated for the lower lobe of that turnaround.
There's only a small piece that is being vacated. The rest of it is already right away.
That's
so
okay.
It would not change.
Just
Gotcha.
We would just carve off that little strip and incorporate that into the CSN.
Oh, so it's not like the whole golf.
No. It's a little crescent
It's just
right
right,
up in
here,
there.
just that. So in
Right.
fact, this is the existing curve right now, right? Pretty
Correct.
much. And then there's just so much asphalt there now. We're proposing that, and then we're adding much more green right here, so that it becomes only a one-way around here, just to make it more pleasing, more green, less pavement.
Any other question, Mick?
Last time when you presented, there was some discussion about the loading dock area. How is that going to really look now when you're coming up 94 toward Cottage Grove?
Okay, so this way, right? So it's pretty well screened. So typically, yeah. So let's go. So that's the, so you can see, so that's the view looking this way. So you can see that typically what we do is, whenever you want to screen a loading dock, typically next to the loading dock, we typically have like emergency generators, dumpsters, transformers, and we place them all right here in this area. And it becomes a screen wall for the semi-loading right there. And we add that with the access down to the parking below. So it's pretty well screened. Because you're looking this way, and all the dumpsters are on this side of it. So that's I think it's worked out pretty well.
There were plantings around that as well. Seems to be what you're showing up.
We have a woodland mix.
Okay.
So the foreground of it right here is a woodland mix plantings.
Looks like there were
Shade
4 pear trees on the landscaping plan.
Okay.
But yeah, you know, and then in the backdrop of that is a brick wall as well, which is, and it's in keeping with the portions of the building as well.
Any further questions? Nobody?
Just want to comment.
Yeah.
You're going to get a lot of awards on this building. It's a great looking building.
Well, thank you.
I
Yeah.
didn't know when to make comments. It's awesome. It's awesome.
Okay. Anything else, Mike or Aaron?
Can walk through the conditions I had, and they're not really action items for the applicant, it's more just documenting the series of exceptions they're requesting, and I guess before I get to that, I just want to remind everybody that the exceptions are why we have a planned unit development district. It's why
Right.
they're doing this, we're doing that in exchange for the kind of quality we're getting, so it's not,
Exactly. Okay.
we're not just rolling over and giving them these things, they are
Right.
using them to produce a very good project. So the first one, the proposed 6-story, 90-foot building height shall be permitted as approved in the general development plan. I think we do want to limit it to this building and not just make it a 90-foot for anything that happens in the future.
Sure.
That would be more of a case-by-case thing if you're going to exceed the height limit later on. You would approve allowing the floor area ratio to get up to 0.5. With a building that tall, it's not really covering a lot of the site, which is
Right.
what the FAR is for. We're okay with the signage being scaled as shown in these drawings. I think we want to limit the size to the dimensions shown. We don't want it to keep creeping bigger, but as it is good. There's a line in our covenants for the Commerce Park limiting glazing to 30% on a building. Most of the buildings in the Commerce Park are much lower and smaller than this. I
Right.
don't think we want this to look like a big solid block. I think we want the glazing and the transparency, so we're okay with that. We're okay with the 0.2-foot candles. And that was okay by the standards that.
It's actually less than our requirement, right? Ours is
Right,
0.4.
so
Yeah.
the requirement would be to be brighter, but again, given that they're going for the LEED
Right.
certification, I think that's all right.
Okay.
We're okay with the native plantings in lieu of shrubs. And then the reduced setback for the canopy, I think is fine. Especially like the way you said, it is basically a monument sign with a roof. It's not a full building. But I think, again, we do want to limit that to the canopy and not just make it a 10-foot setback, going forward anywhere on the site. So those were the conditions related to the precise implementation plan. There's actually going to be 2 separate action items. The CSM would be a second vote. The conditions we have for that is that the village will go through the process of vacating the land. And then just clarifying that, we're attaching the land to your parcels, but you guys are doing the work.
Okay. Anything, Mike?
There's nothing too exciting here because we've looked at the site plan previously, but on the access to East Gaston Road, we're just recommending that they construct it with curb and gutter and to 50 feet north of the street inlets that they have. Okay. For stormwater there. Otherwise, I think we talked about the other items I brought up, and planning commission's good with those. We will be starting the land disturbance permit would be next, and that would just include a surety for the value of the stormwater management and erosion control and a maintenance agreement on the internal basins. And that could happen, whenever they're ready to get going.
Sounds like we've covered everything. Any comments or questions from Plan Commission members? Anything? Okay. And at this point, I'll move that we approve their precise implementation plan for their new headquarters. Motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I'd just like to clarify, or maybe add as an amendment, that this would be a single tenant signage.
You good with that?
I don't know, the application, I'm not really sure how to do it, Aaron, but my concern really is not having a multi-tenant sign, which would allow them to move and change it without coming back.
Sure, that's fine. And second accepts that?
What?
No multi-tenant sign? All right, motion and a second then to approve their precise implementation plan with engineering and plan requirements, including the no multi-tenant signage. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. And then item 9 is tied into this, as Aaron said, vacating the land so that we can create a certified survey map, basically combining 4 existing parcels into one parcel located at 1709 Landmark Drive. Did you have anything to show on the screen regarding that, or is that just?
No.
Okay, Mike, any issues with that at all?
No.
Okay, Aaron?
Right. And there'd be a vacation ordinance to be done along with that, and that would be just that crescent they showed you,
Yep.
but then maybe a CSM that they'll work on to combine the lots.
Okay. Perfect.
We've submitted the
Okay.
CSM and the description of the parcel being vacated.
Okay. I think we're got through all the hoops. Any comments, questions on that issue regarding the land division?
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Phyllis seconded, okay. Motion and a second then to approve vacating the land and creating a certified survey map, combining 4 existing parcels into one parcel located at 1709 Landmark Drive. Any other comments or questions, discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Once again, welcome.
Thank you.
Any comments from Plan Commission members? We can go round robin once we get things set up here again. So, I don't think we just approved the ordinance yet, but.
Quite well, but.
That's the guy that died in the
They made some mistakes out there.
More frequently, yeah.
Good
to see you. Russ said, I think
Thank you.
They're supposed to do this work in April and May. This stuff moved to late.
Okay, comments from the commission members? Nick?
One comment, as it's pointed out, Cottage Grove has grown a lot over the years, and we've seen several developments come through in the last 6 months.
Okay.
And we currently have the ability as the Plan Commission to require the applicant to have a neighborhood meeting. And so, Aaron, this is probably for you to, to me, it just seems like it would be appropriate in some situations. An example would be tonight where there actually would be a neighborhood meeting. The section that we currently have in our code states what, if we would request a meeting, that really needs to be part of that meeting, which is really the things that we're discussing. And so I guess my question would be, perhaps staff could look and see if they think there are certain applications, maybe it could be size of subdivision or annexation, where it really would be good to get the neighborhood involved before they get to us,
So the discussions like we're having tonight, there's already been that discussion. Those comments can maybe already be integrated into the development if they're good comments. You know, just a thought that we might want to consider that going forward. I know, you know, a lot of communities do require a neighborhood meeting, and I'm thinking
And at least kind of gives them that idea that, or that feeling that, okay, we've had input and you've heard what we've had to say and.
Let them know it's coming.
Yeah.
Versus just the noticing requirements as we go.
right, and maybe it could even be tied to the notice requirement. I defer to staff, what's the best way of doing something like
Typically,
that?
they'll come in with a concept, and then we'll go to the preliminary plat. So I think in between those states, you know, we see the concept, and if we're okay with it, then they do the neighborhood meeting step, and then we get to the preliminary.
And one individual tonight did come up and thank me, thank the commission really for asking me, for stating that there would be this informational meeting for them to get more information on this. Anyway, I just wanted to throw it out there as an item.
Phyllis? Jennifer?
I find myself agreeing with Mick, even though, you know, the vast majority of folks that were here tonight were not taxpayers of the village of Cottage Grove. I tend to put a lot more value on the opinion of the people who pay taxes in this community. But I think it's a nice gesture. I mean, to folks, of course, their world is going to be impacted, and I appreciate that. I appreciate more the taxpayers for this municipality, though. I think that's our job.
Just to kind of dovetail, not only the informational meeting, I think it's a great idea in the neighborhood or surrounding neighborhoods. Just personally, I'm a little disappointed that the school board or a full-time member of the school district couldn't attend this meeting. I know an invitation was extended, questions were sent, and I agree with the gentleman. Those answers to me were unacceptable.
I think they had some kind of school board meeting or something tonight too, or something.
We're going to look for a night.
My kids filming it.
I think where we're at is we're rescheduling our September board meeting because of Labor Day, and we're hoping that we can work something out then with them. I think the first Thursday instead of the first Monday.
And for what it's worth, they're actually taking citizen members, and I've been appointed to, let me get the name right here, Community Engagement, Communication, and Government Relations Committee. So our first meeting is next Tuesday, so hopefully I'll be able to bring some insight into this because
Sure.
I think it's, I think it's important. I mean, not only to me, but you know, we're adding additional homes, putting more pressure on the schools. Which, all right, there's different studies, and there's 3 or 4 different figures out there that the school district has, but I think it's important for everyone to know that, you know, we're not building trailers or busing 5th graders, and I know it's just an example back and forth, but that information is passed along from school district employees to constituents, and I think if we hear the facts and get them straight and be proactive, and I know it's more of a school board issue than a village issue, but I think we need to work a little bit more hand in hand in this. So.
Okay. Lee, anything?
Well, just in line with Mick and everyone else saying about the neighborhood meetings, I think they also keep in mind that when they're here, this is a pretty formal, they're not used to speaking in front of a crowd like this.
Right.
You know, this is more formal. I think you want to give them an opportunity to they may feel a little more comfortable. I'll bring things up, and maybe the developer can develop some rapport with them in terms of,
sure,
hey, I hear what you're saying, and this is what we're going to do to try to answer that.
Well, yeah, because they've already formed their own opinions, and they're on the defense, and I agree. If it was a more informal, where they, I don't want to say that where they felt like they're being heard, but they would, you know, they would be heard.
More receptive.
And maybe more receptive to the exchange of ideas versus.
This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Sometimes more of an open house format can work like that, where you have, you know, a couple of stations and they can kind of mill around and ask questions, and they're not asking in front of everybody. And
sure.
Sometimes they're more comfortable.
Okay.
I mean, you're never going to please everybody.
No. We'll do what we can. Anything else, Aaron? Or?
You know, I figured we had enough on our plate tonight without looking at more comp plan stuff, but we'll certainly get back to that.
Okay. Mike, anything?
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I'm so excited for Summit. I mean, this has been an ongoing thing, and to have this here, I mean.
Kind of a flagship development out there.
We are, this is thrilling.
ripple effect is gonna be nice.
You aren't kidding.
Yep.
And they've been fantastic to work with. Such a big company coming into such a small place. They could have really thrown their weight around, but they haven't done that at all. They've been very cooperative, and the team is extraordinarily professional.
And Kim has been really impressed. She's said to me on several occasions how impressed she's been with the village staff, so kudos to you guys.
Mike, anything else engineering-wise?
The temporary four-way stop at School Road appears to be working better than I would have expected, but we probably scared in away enough traffic.
Not me, Mike.
No.
I drive right down there.
How's the wait time?
Okay, I
It's
still
not
see
bad.
some
It's
last-minute brake lights, but I think it's working, and,
Sure.
you know, I think Hamburg will get it done.
Yeah. So,
What's the ETA?
end of, it's not quite before school.
They're just not used to it.
Getting close.
Okay. All right, future agenda items, anything from Plan Commission members, or Aaron, anything, comp plan update?
Comp plan update. We'll see if they're ready to do their preliminary plat next time for Shady Grove. Possibly another annexation. I'm not sure.
Okay,
Depends if they
All right.
get their stuff together.
sounds good. If there's nothing else, that brings us to item 12. Anybody want to go home?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Okay, motion and second to adjourn, non-debatable. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.